Welcome to Cheat House. Join us for relatable cheating stories that will make you laugh and cry. Here's a breakup story without numbering. I met her during my college days. She was like a breath of fresh air, someone who brought light into every room she walked into. We started off as friends, sharing laughter, late-night conversations, and dreams of the future. Over time, those feelings grew deeper, and we found ourselves falling in love. Our relationship was everything I thought love should be, filled with joy, warmth, and moments that felt eternal. But life, as it often does, had different plans. As the years passed, the pressures of work, personal growth, and unspoken expectations began to take a toll on us. The once effortless connection started feeling strained, and the silences between us grew longer. We tried to hold on. There were moments of hope where we thought things would go back to how they were. But the truth was, we had changed, and so had our priorities. The love was still there, but it wasn't enough to bridge the growing distance. One evening, we sat across from each other, and without saying much, we both knew what had to be done. There were no angry words or blame, just an understanding that our paths had diverged. As painful as it was, we let each other go, hoping that this choice would bring us both peace. Even though it's over, I'll always cherish the memories we created. She'll forever be a chapter in my life that taught me about love, loss, and the strength it takes to let go. After that evening, everything felt surreal. The absence of her in my life was like a hollow echo, something I couldn't ignore but had to face. I found myself walking through places we once visited together, the memories lingering like shadows. Her favorite cafe, the park where we sat for hours, even the little bookstore where she used to lose track of time. They all carried pieces of her presence. The hardest part wasn't the big, overwhelming moments. It was the small, quiet ones. Reaching for my phone to share something funny, only to remember I couldn't. Hearing a song on the radio that reminded me of her laugh. Those were the moments when the loss felt sharpest. Over time, I started to understand that healing isn't linear. Some days were easier, filled with distractions and the company of friends. Others were tougher, like walking uphill with the weight of memories pressing down on me. But I kept moving forward one step at a time. I began rediscovering myself, my hobbies, my passions, the parts of me that had been set aside during our relationship. I realized that while she was an incredible part of my life, she wasn't the entirety of it. And slowly, I learned to embrace that truth. There were no grand revelations or dramatic moments of closure, just a quiet acceptance that life continues. I still think of her sometimes, not with pain but with gratitude. She was a beautiful chapter in my story, and though it ended, it helped shape who I am today. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means finding the strength to move forward, carrying the lessons and the love. Even as you leave the heartbreak behind, as time passed, the emptiness started to fade, replaced by a sense of peace. The ache in my chest softened into a bittersweet nostalgia, a reminder that love, no matter how fleeting, has a way of leaving its mark. I stopped avoiding the places we used to go. Instead, I reclaimed them as my own, filling them with new memories and fresh laughter. Life has a way of surprising us, even when we think we're stuck. One day, I found myself smiling without realizing it, enjoying the little things I'd once overlooked. A vibrant sunset, the scent of rain on the pavement, the sound of laughter echoing through a crowded street. All these small moments reminded me that the world is full of beauty, even when it feels like it's crumbling. I started meeting new people, not to replace her, but to remind myself of the vastness of human connection. Each interaction taught me something new, a small piece of wisdom that added to my growth. I began to see my journey not as a loss, but as a series of lessons, a path that was always leading me somewhere meaningful. One day, I stumbled upon an old photo of us. Instead of tears, it brought a smile. I saw two people who loved deeply, who shared something special, even if it wasn't meant to last forever. I silently thanked her, not just for the good times, but also for the challenges, for helping me understand the depths of my own heart. Now, when I think of love, I don't see it as something perfect or eternal. I see it as a series of moments, beautiful, flawed, transformative. I've learned that it's okay to let go of something that no longer fits, even if it hurts, because in doing so, we make room for new beginnings, for the possibility of finding something or someone that feels like home again. And maybe, just maybe, the greatest love we can find is the one we learn to give ourselves. As I began embracing this newfound self-love, life started to unfold in unexpected ways. I discovered passions I had forgotten about, writing, traveling, and even just sitting quietly with a book on a lazy Sunday afternoon. These simple joys became my anchor, reminding me of who I was before and who I was becoming. One day, while exploring a quaint art gallery in a part of the city I'd never visited before, I met someone new. It wasn't like the movies. No instant spark or dramatic moment. It was subtle, a warm and easy connection that didn't demand anything of me. We talked about the artwork, shared a laugh over a mutual love of terrible puns, and exchanged numbers with no expectations. This time, I was careful not to rush. I had learned the value of building something slowly, of allowing space for both people to grow individually and together. It felt different, less intense, perhaps, but steady and kind. Through it all, I kept reflecting on the past, not with regret but with appreciation. Each experience, each heartbreak, had shaped the person I was becoming. I realized that love isn't about finding someone who completes you, but someone who complements the journey you're already on. There are still moments when the past whispers to me, a song, a familiar scent, or even a dream. But instead of feeling like wounds reopening, they feel like gentle reminders of how far I've come. Life has a way of coming full circle. I don't know what the future holds, but I've learned to embrace the uncertainty. Whether love comes again or I continue on my path alone, I know I'll be okay. Because I've learned that the most important relationship is the one I have with myself, and that's something no heartbreak can ever take away. And maybe that's the true beauty of it all. To love, to lose, and to find your way back to yourself, stronger and more open to the possibilities of what's next. As the seasons change, so did I. The once overwhelming sting of heartbreak had softened into a quiet resilience. I found myself more in tune with the ebb and flow of life, embracing its uncertainties rather than fearing them. Each day was a chance to write a new page, and I realized that the story I was crafting now was my own, independent of anyone else's. The person I had met at the art gallery became a friend first. We spent time getting to know each other, sharing stories of our lives, the triumphs and the mistakes. What made this connection different was its simplicity. There were no grand expectations, no pressure to define it too soon. It felt like two people walking alongside each other, enjoying the journey without needing to rush to a destination. In these quiet moments, I began to understand something profound. Love is not about filling a void. It's about sharing the fullness of your life with someone else. I no longer sought validation or completion from another person because I had found those things within myself. There were days of joy and days of doubt, but I learned to hold space for both. On the tough days, I reminded myself of how far I had come. On the good days, I allowed myself to bask in the present without questioning it. The balance wasn't perfect, but it was mine, and that was enough. Eventually, what started as friendship grew into something more. It wasn't dramatic or overwhelming. It was steady and comforting, like coming home after a long journey. We didn't try to fix each other or force things into place. Instead, we celebrated each other's individuality, knowing that love is strongest when it's rooted in mutual respect and understanding. Looking back now, I see that every part of my journey was necessary. The love I lost taught me the value of vulnerability. The heartbreak showed me the strength I never knew I had. And the time alone gave me the chance to rediscover who I truly am. As I walk into this new chapter of my life, I carry all of it with me. The lessons, the memories, and the growth. I don't know what the future holds, but for the first time in a long while, I'm okay with that. Because I've learned that life isn't about having all the answers. It's about being open to the questions and trusting that each step will lead you exactly where you're meant to be. And wherever that may be, I know I'll be ready as the years unfolded. The lessons from that chapter of heartbreak and healing became deeply ingrained in who I was. I no longer carried the weight of the past as a burden, but rather as a collection of stories that shaped me, each one a testament to my resilience and capacity for growth. The relationship that blossomed from the art gallery encounter became a beautiful part of my life, but this time I approached it differently. I didn't lose myself in it. I made space for my own dreams, passions, and individuality while supporting and celebrating theirs. It was a partnership built on trust, honesty, and the understanding that two people could walk side by side without overshadowing one another. One evening, as we sat on a quiet beach watching the sun dip below the horizon, I found myself reflecting on the journey that had brought me here. I thought of the love I'd once had, the pain of its loss, and the long road to rediscovery. I realized that every tear shed, every moment of doubt had been worth it, because they had led me to this moment of peace. Life continued to surprise me in wonderful ways. New opportunities arose, ones I never would have imagined during the days when I felt lost. I pursued dreams I'd once set aside, met people who inspired me, and created a life that felt authentically mine. Even as time moved on, I occasionally thought of my old relationship, not with sadness but with gratitude. It was a chapter that had closed but remained an important part of my story. Without it, I wouldn't have learned the strength of my own heart or the depth of my own courage. And so, life became a balance, a dance between honoring the past and embracing the present. I discovered that love, in all its forms, is never truly lost. It lives on in the memories, in the lessons, and in the way it shapes us. Today, as I stand on the cusp of new adventures, I carry with me the certainty that I am whole, that I am enough, and that life's greatest gift is its ability to renew us again and again. The journey isn't always easy, but it's always worth it, because it leads us back to the most important destination of all, ourselves. As time continued its steady march forward, I began to see life as a series of interconnected moments, each one preparing me for the next in ways I could never have anticipated. The love I had lost, the solitude I had embraced, and the new connections I had forged were all threads in the tapestry of my journey. The relationship that had started so quietly in the art gallery grew into something profound, not because it was perfect, but because it was real. We faced challenges together, and instead of letting them divide us, we used them to deepen our understanding of each other. We laughed often, argued occasionally, and always returned to the foundation we had built: respect, trust, and the freedom to be ourselves. Outside of love, my life became richer in other ways too. I found a career path that fulfilled me, one that allowed me to blend passion with purpose. I traveled to places I'd only dreamed of, exploring new cultures and discovering parts of myself I never knew existed. I nurtured friendships that had stood the test of time and built new ones with people who brought fresh perspectives into my life. Every now and then, on quiet nights or in unexpected moments, memories of my past relationship would surface. They weren't painful anymore, just echoes of a time when I had loved and been loved in a different way. I realized that those memories weren't something to push away. They were a part of me, a reminder of the capacity of my heart and the resilience of my spirit. There came a point when I could look back on everything, every tear, every laugh, every moment of doubt and clarity, and feel nothing but gratitude. Gratitude for the love I had experienced, the lessons I had learned, and the person I had become. Life didn't stop unfolding its mysteries. There were still ups and downs, triumphs and failures, joys and sorrows. But through it all, I carry with me the understanding that every moment, no matter how fleeting, holds a purpose. The future remains unwritten, full of possibilities I can't yet imagine. But I walk forward with an open heart, knowing that I've lived, loved, and learned in ways that have prepared me for whatever comes next. Because in the end, The story isn't about the heartbreak or the happy ending. It's about the journey, the growth, and the courage to keep writing the next chapter. As the years went by, I continued to evolve, becoming more comfortable with the ebb and flow of life. I stopped looking for the perfect moment, the ideal situation, or the perfect relationship. Instead, I embraced the imperfection of everything, understanding that each piece of my story, with all its twists and turns, had shaped who I was meant to be. I learned to celebrate the small victories, the quiet moments of contentment, and the simple joy of being present. Life didn't need to be grand to be meaningful. The beauty often lay in the unnoticed, the subtle, the everyday. Even in the midst of change, there were moments that anchored me. The sound of rain tapping against my window, the first sip of coffee in the morning, the smell of fresh earth after a storm. These were the moments that reminded me of the quiet power of being alive. I no longer felt like I had to chase after some distant future, but instead, I learned to find peace in the here and now. I also deepened my relationships with others. I stopped clinging to the idea of finding the one and realized that love, in all its forms, is abundant. The love I received from friends, family, and even strangers showed me that connection is not just about romantic bonds, but about shared experiences, kindness, and empathy. Every person I met along the way added something unique to my journey. Though I remained open to love, I no longer needed it to define my happiness. I discovered a sense of completeness that came from within. It wasn't a self-sufficiency born of bitterness or fear, but a peaceful acceptance that I am enough as I am. It was freeing to know that love wasn't something I had to seek out, but something I could nurture within myself and share freely with others. Sometimes, I would look at my life and marvel at how far I had come. From the broken-hearted person I once was to the person who had learned to rise, time had woven a new sense of strength and wisdom into me. I wasn't the same person anymore, and that was something to be proud of. I had allowed myself to be shaped by life's lessons, and in doing so, I had become more whole than I ever thought possible. And so, with a heart open to all possibilities, I continued forward. There were still unknowns, still moments of uncertainty and doubt, but I no longer feared them. Life was an adventure, and I was no longer waiting for something to happen to me. I was living, fully present, and open to whatever came next. Because in the end, I had learned the most important lesson of all. Life isn't about waiting for the perfect love or the perfect moment. It's about living the imperfect, beautiful, messy, and surprising moments as they come, knowing that they all lead to growth, to deeper understanding, and to the freedom to be your true self. As I moved further into this phase of life, I began to see everything with a sense of wonder and gratitude. The things that once seemed mundane now felt like miracles. The way the sun painted the sky at dusk, the soft rustle of leaves in the wind, the laughter of friends. These everyday moments were now woven into the fabric of my life as something deeply precious. One of the biggest shifts I noticed in myself was my relationship with fear. Where I once saw it as something to avoid, now I saw it as a companion on my journey, a reminder that growth often lies just beyond our comfort zones. I no longer felt paralyzed by it. Instead, I welcomed challenges, not as threats, but as opportunities to expand my horizons. I ventured into new territories, traveling to places I had always dreamed of but had put off, starting projects that had sat dormant in my mind for years. There were still moments of uncertainty, but I had learned to trust myself and my ability to navigate whatever came my way. I realized that the strength I had found in myself didn't come from avoiding hardship, but from embracing it with resilience and a quiet confidence. My perspective on relationships also evolved. I learned that love isn't about possession or perfection, but about giving and receiving freely, without the weight of expectation. The relationships I had cultivated over the years became deeper, not because I tried to change anyone, but because I allowed myself to truly understand them and let them understand me. I learned to love without needing to own and to be loved without clinging. The connections I formed were grounded in mutual respect, kindness, and honesty, and they became some of the most fulfilling parts of my life. And then one day, I found myself standing at a crossroads again, feeling the pull of something new, something unknown. The idea of starting a new chapter didn't scare me like it once would have. Instead, it felt like a natural extension of all I had learned. I wasn't trying to fix myself or find something to fill a void anymore. I was simply living, fully engaged in the flow of life, trusting that whatever came next would be exactly what I needed. I realized, perhaps for the first time, that life is not about finding a destination. It's about the journey, the ongoing process of becoming, evolving, and being open to all the unexpected beauty along the way. I had learned to release the need for certainty, knowing that life would unfold in its own time, and that whatever came next, I was ready. In that moment of quiet reflection, I felt a deep sense of peace. There was no need to chase anything, to prove anything, or to hold on too tightly. I was simply content with the person I had become and the person I was still becoming. And that was enough, because in the end, life is less about the love you lose or the love you find, and more about the love you cultivate within yourself, and the grace with which you embrace all that is yet to come. Thanks for watching. Do not forget to like and comment and press bell icon for more cheating stories.